Afternoon again, everyone. John Johnson here, the pastor of the Bethany First Assembly of God Church, Bethany, Oklahoma. I had announced previously that I'd be continuing the series today on stewardship, legacy, and we're actually going to defer that message to next week. I'm bringing you the same message that I delivered to the church this morning, and I have a definite reason for that. This last Thursday, Thursday past, we lost to not only to our congregation, but also to our fellowship, the Assemblies of God, to pastors and leaders and teachers all over the world, frankly. People of every stripe. We lost a great friend, a great mentor in ministry, a great man, Tom Green. And Tom and Pam have been a part of our church for the last 3 years. And we're so thankful that we had the opportunity to develop a friendship with them. I will miss not just seeing Tom occasionally in church, which was rare because of his travels. Those of you that knew him know that he stayed constantly booked up, traveling all across the country and even around the world, sharing the gospel, raising money for critical missions needs. But he and Pam became great friends, and I will miss the opportunity to have those times when we had coffee together, so I could unload some of the pastoral burdens that one carries when one has a congregation, and to also share friendship and share life together. So as a result of that, our church is in mourning. It was a sudden death. It was unanticipated, totally unexpected. So from that, I felt this morning that I needed to perhaps go in a little different direction. This happened one additional time in my experience, losing a great friend on very short notice, totally unanticipated. When we were back in Altus, a gentleman by the name of Ron Bramhall, he was the drummer. He played the drums in our band in the evening, on Sunday evening services, and was a great friend. We fished together. We spent a lot of time together. We ate many a meal at his home along with his wife, Sherry. And one Sunday night, he went home from church and sat down in his recliner to watch the evening news, the 10 o'clock news, and went to heaven. So as a result of that, our church was in great distress back those many years ago. So this rather disorganized assemblage of thoughts that I'm going to give you today were the thoughts that I delivered to that church and also again this morning to our church. So let us begin. And there's not a particular passage today. I will not be doing my usual work of exegesis and exposition. These are just some, again, random thoughts that I wrote down those many years ago when we lost Ron Bramhall. And it seemed good to me and, frankly, to the Holy Spirit today to deliver these words also to the church that I serve. And so I trust that you'll gain something from them as well. These are things, I titled this, Things Learned from the Premature Death of a Friend. The first thing that we need to understand is life, no matter how long it is or how short, life is brief. Life is brief and life is fragile. We hold it very, very carefully, to be quite honest. Now, when we're young, we think of ourselves as being somewhat immortal and bulletproof. The truth is, a good bump on the head in a traffic accident can send one into eternity, as I did the funeral for a 23-year-old at one point. That's exactly what happened. I have also in my career, the youngest person I said words over was a 5-year-old in another place, in another time, who had gone through numerous heart surgeries and lost his fight at the age of 5. Life is brief, no matter how long. I've attended the funerals of people that live to be in their 90s. And someone invariably passes by the casket to view the remains and says, "Oh, auntie," or "Oh, grandmother," or "Too quickly you were taken from us." And of course, my mind runs circles and says, "They lived to be 93. That's far longer than most." But life is brief. And James 4, I think, gives us a context for this. In the 4th chapter of the book of James, letter of James, epistle, in verse 13 and following, he says this: "Come now, you who say, 'Today or tomorrow we'll go into such and such a town, spend a year there, and trade and make a profit.' Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring." Tom was going about his business. He had no anticipation he was going to die. It happened suddenly. In fact, the paramedics said it was over that quickly. Well, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are a mist, James says, a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, "If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that." As such, or as it is, you boast in your arrogance, and all such boasting is evil. Whoever knows to do the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. James makes it very clear. We plan for the future. We think we have things in order, our ducks in the proverbial row, but the facts are none of us has any idea whatsoever what tomorrow will bring. A sudden onset of sickness, a sudden withdrawal of our breath, and we will be in eternity. Another passage, Psalm 39, beginning with verse 4. "O Lord, make me know my end, and what is the measure of my days. Let me know how fleeting I am." Keep that in focus. How fleeting is life, how brief, how fragile. My heart became, here it is. "Behold, you have made my days a few handbreadths, and my lifetime is as nothing before you. For surely all mankind stands as a mere breath away. Surely a man goes about as a shadow. Surely for nothing they are in turmoil. Man heaps up wealth for himself and does not know who will gather it at a later time." Well, life is brief, so we should keep short accounts. If there's someone you have offended, apologize. If there's someone you cheated, make it right. If there's someone in your life that you love, but you haven't told them recently or expressed that love to them, do so. Life is brief, so we should keep short accounts. Don't let anything accumulate. Keep it all up to date. Number two, whether we know it or not, all things work together for good. Of course, the passage here is Romans 8. And Romans 8 is an interesting, Romans 8:28. It's an interesting passage. It reads here in the English Standard Version, "We know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." We read that, and most of the time we'll think, well, that certainly means that everything has to turn out good. Can I just say that on its face, there's nothing patently good about the premature death of a friend who died at 69 years of age. And of course, everyone in the audience that's my age, 67, 68, we immediately think, don't we? It gives one pause, does it not? Well, explain to me, Pastor, how this could possibly be for our good and for God's glory. And yet that's exactly what this passage in Romans says. And Paul, if you read it in context, it's plain as the proverbial schnoz on your face, that God is at work in all things, the good things, the not so good things, the happy days and the not so happy days. The moments when we feel we are triumphing and we're running the race, and other days when we're on the sidelines panting and out of breath and can't get our legs to work. In all things, God is at work. Everything in life. What? For our good. and for his glory. How can God get glory out of the death of a friend at 69? I'm not sure at this point, but I know this: if we will keep trusting him and keep watching, he will, in fact, get glory from even this. I remember back when my wife, Rebecca, received her cancer diagnosis some 20 years ago, 22. We were, of course, disturbed greatly. I probably more so than her, because I was wondering if she would, if maybe I would be finish raising my children alone, be by myself. The Lord told me in a moment of my own expression of emotion, the Lord assured me that he would get glory out of the situation. And my response was, how can you get glory out of cancer? And in fact, God did get glory out of cancer. And we're so grateful that he used even those circumstances in our lives to gain something for himself and for the kingdom. All things do indeed work together for good. So life is brief, keep short accounts. All things work together for good. Number 3, longevity. Let's talk about longevity, the length of life. You see, God's perspective on time and eternity, or mortality, I should say, is entirely different from ours. We have this concept that if a person dies before they're in their majority, elderly, that somehow they have, somehow that they've been cheated. Can I tell you again? It's not that we're guaranteed 70 or 80 years. In fact, Psalm 90 is the passage for this, the passage of primary reference. In Psalm 90, I'll find it over here. There it is. Psalm 90, verse 10, the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80, but their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. So, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. It's not that God is guaranteeing us 70 or 80 years. People read that and they misinterpret what's really being said here by the psalmist. No, the psalmist is making an observation. If we have the strength, that's what it says. If by reason of strength we can make it perhaps to 70 or 80 years, that's good. That's an observation, but it's not a guarantee. Otherwise, again, I've got to go find the parents and grandparents of that 5-year-old and apologize on behalf of God. You understand, our times are in his hands. All the days ordained for us, Psalm 139 says, all the days ordained for us were written in his book before one of them came to be. Before you were ever conceived and grew in your mother's womb, God had a plan for your life. He had an intentional plan, and he knows the number of your days. So let's get it straight. Since God's perspective on time has nothing to do with our understanding of time, you see, God has always been, he is currently, and he always will be. As such, he has no origin and he has no ending. He understands everything in terms of eternity. We just understand that little slice of time and eternity that we get to occupy. I've heard it described as the dash on the cemetery tombstone between the two dates, the date of our birth and death. Easy for me to say. So, number 3, longevity. God's perspective is different. And then there is number 4. In the death of a Christian, we see the truth that life is something to be invested. Life is something to be invested. Let's look in the Gospel of John. Pardon me. In the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verse 23, following. Well, let's begin back up in verse 20. So we'll get it all in context. Remember, a text without a context is a pretext. Now, among those who went up to worship at the feast were some Greeks. So they came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Well, Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip then went to tell Jesus. And Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." That's an interesting response to a request from some Greeks, isn't it? "Truly I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Whoever loves his life will lose it. And whoever hates his life in this world, though, will keep it for eternal life. If you serve me, you must follow me. And where I am, there my servant will be also." We from our perspective, again, think of death as a defeat. No. Death is simply the culmination or the completion of a life that has been spent in service. And certainly for my friend Tom Green, his was a life well invested, well spent. Yes, in our estimation, gone too quickly, too brief a life. Not in our minds, he did not complete the mission he was on. And yet, in the economy of God, somehow, some way, God felt that his time was up. So we see life as something to be invested. Jesus said, unless a kernel of wheat, a single seed, falls into the earth and dies. And that's exactly what happens in germination. The seed goes into the earth and it ceases to be what it is so that it may become something else. It may become a plant. And for instance, corn. Now he's talking about a grain of wheat here, but corn is an interesting commodity. You put a single kernel of corn in the ground, it produces a corn stalk plant that can have anywhere from 2 to 4 ears on it. And each of those ears will have between 400 and 500 kernels on them, sometimes even more in the hybrid breeds. Understand, one seed produces an abundance of seeds. Someone once correctly said that any fool can count the number of seeds in a particular fruit, like an apple, but no one can accurately predict the number of apples in a single seed. You see, it's all about the process of investment. Tom Green invested his life in the soil of the kingdom. And much fruit is being born even to this day and will be born. So my question for you is, what will be the legacy you leave behind in your death? What will be the fruit that comes in your wake? Will it simply be a nice house in the suburbs, a couple of nice cars, and maybe a luxury item or two like a boat or a mobile home or an RV, some children and some grandchildren that will frankly fight over your inheritance once you're gone? What will be your legacy? Is your life being invested? Are you following the footsteps of the Master? He said very simply here, he said, if anyone serves me, he must follow me. If we're going to serve him, we must follow him. And remember, when Jesus spoke this, he was getting pretty close to the day that he would literally invest his life in death. Finally, and number 5, and let me review quickly the things we've learned so far. Life is brief. Keep short accounts. All things do indeed work together for our good and God's glory. From God's perspective, life does not have to be long to be of significance. I neglected to say that earlier. That's the message I gave at the funeral of the 5-year-old. That's what God told me that I needed to say, that life does not have to be long or lengthy to be of significance. Longevity. Number 4, the death of a Christian should be looked upon as the lesson of investment into the soil of the kingdom. And then, from God's perspective, number 5, blessed in his sight is the death of his saints. Psalm 116, verse 15. Psalm 116, verse 15. And this is a passage that we often quote at funerals. It says simply, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and call upon the name of the Lord. God sees it in that fashion. Blessed in his sight is the death of his saints. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, to wrap this up. 2 Corinthians 4. Beginning in verse 16. Beginning in verse 16. Therefore we do not lose heart. Though our outer self, our bodies, are wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light, momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. So we look not at the things that are seen, but to the things that are not seen. For the things that are seen are temporary, transient. But the things that are unseen are eternal. Trusting today that you will gain from this brief message, and it has been brief, an eternal perspective that will guide you in the days that follow to keep short accounts, to live life for the glory of God, because he has promised that he will get glory from our lives, and that we will see our lives as something being invested on a day by day by day by day basis. And that when our time comes, that we will not look upon death as a defeat, but instead we'll look at it from God's perspective. A blessed thing, a thing that brings us into his eternal presence. May the Lord God comfort and strengthen those who are struggling today with loss and grief. And may he enrich our lives in many, many ways is my prayer. God bless you. Amen.